This is Tiernan Flood. I'm a board member with the M365 user group. Thank you for joining us for our 2:30 session on the automation track with Richard Brynteson. Your app is in your teams. If this isn't the meeting that you intended to be in, please go back to the MN365.org events page, and you can get the link to the meeting from the calendar. Couple of housekeeping items that I'm sure you've all seen 100 times before, but this meeting is being recorded, so security disclaimer and information on that. And again, thank you and welcome to the workshop day. If you'd like to help us promote our user group and our community, please follow us on Twitter at O365MN and hashtag the M365 workshop day. Real quick logistical items. Again, meetings being recorded. Please mute yourself during the presentation. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will notify Richard that there are questions, or feel free to type them into the chat and Richard will answer them at appropriate break times or at the end. If you need live captioning, in the upper right hand side, 3-dot ellipsis, you can turn on the closed captioning to get the verbiage dictated to you in text. At the end of the session, we'll be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card based on random drawing of the people who are still in attendance at the end of the session. And again, at the end of the entire meeting, this is the last session, please remember to fill out your survey. It can be found at this URL or taking a picture of this QR code. Please don't fill it out to the end, but this will enter you into a drawing for a Microsoft Surface Go 2 that we are giving away at the end of this. All of this is made possible by our sponsors, so I'd like to thank our sponsors who are Microsoft, Concurrency, Now Micro, Cyber Advisors, RBA, and Arctic Wolf. Their financial contribution to our community allows us to put on these events and do the giveaways that we do that probably are what keep you guys interested in this. So that's it for my piece of this. I'm going to turn the call over to Richard. And Richard, I'd like to thank you ahead of time for your continued support of the user group. For those of you who have not seen Richard speak, he's a regular contributor to our community. So Richard, thank you again for all your time and knowledge that you share with us. And I will kick the ball over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Thank you. So let me get this rolling here. So we're going to talk about apps and teams. And if you haven't had a chance or watched the video afterwards, Corey had an amazing session at the beginning of the day, which only had like 75% of the content I planned. So I spent the last few hours coming up with new stuff. So this could go lots of different ways. It could be like a car crash and you see like the car falling off the cliff, or it might be perfect. So we're going to see. So my hope is to not repeat too much content in this entire track that you may have seen already. So with that said, let's try to do this and make this work. So we're going to talk about low code to lots of code, and I'm going to try to make it so it doesn't look too scary, but there's definitely going to be instances where we're going to dive a little bit into Visual Studio Code, but again, we'll make it not too scary at the end of the day. So I always like this slide because it's a good place to start in case you didn't know all the different ways that Microsoft Teams interacts with your app or service. And there's really, there are 5 and there's really a 6th that is coming that doesn't get talked too much about. So we're going to talk in depth about tabs, connect, adaptive cards, bots, and messaging extensions. So how could you leverage each one of those 5 items within potentially a custom app that you're writing or have written, or a off-the-shelf piece of application as well. And the last one, we're not going to talk too much about this one, just because there's not a lot to share. It was kind of shared at Ignite in some of the really deep dive dev sessions, but Microsoft announced that the activity bell developers are going to have access to write information directly into the activity bell and take actions inside of that activity bell. So there's going to be a lot of really fun stuff that we can do there as well, but a lot of that's coming. So that's kind of that sixth spot that we get to plan. So let's just dive in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about message and adaptive cards. And Corey talked a lot about this, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I just need to do enough to level set the room so we all kind of understand how they work, what they are, because this is by far the most basic way you can integrate items into your application today. And the other thing you're going to discover is I don't like PowerPoint too much, so I'm going to be going in and out of PowerPoint. I'm just using it as like my guide rails to keep me somewhere sane today. So let's look at those first two and talk about how we could use a webhook and Power Automate. The last thing I do have to say for sure, if you have questions, put in the chat. You can come off mute. I don't care. It's a pretty small crowd. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at a webhook, and webhooks live inside of the channels. So I'm here, Teams, I've got my testing group, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to build myself a new channel just so you know that I'm not, cheating or doing anything cool like that. So my new test group, and standard, I'm going to hit add, and it's going to add my channel as long as the demo gods don't strike against me already. And then what I want to do is I'm going to create a webhook, and the webhook can be used for both message cards and adaptive cards. And we'll talk about the differences, and there are some fun things you can do with both of them, and I'll show you some cool code with it. But the idea is I want to send a message into this channel from some third-party application. So it could be literally anything. Again, it could be something you wrote, it could be some other product, whatever the case is. So I'm going to click the more button here. I'm going to come down to connectors. It's going to spin for half a second, and it's going to work great. Come on, you can do it. I always like it. This is a good sign when the basic Microsoft stuff isn't working right out of the gate. You can do it. Come on. do 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 do. Oh, come on. And all right, let's try it again. This is like the most basic part. If this doesn't work, we're all in trouble. Teams might be down if this doesn't work. Just saying.
Heavy off and on again.
Quick, someone toggle the Teams switch. Let me refresh the browser. We'll do that. That's like the reboot button, right?
Richard, it knew you'd spent all day redoing your presentation.
I know, exactly. It's just this is perfect. Like you could not make this up. Wow, this is like literally the most basic part of Teams too.
Can you switch in the web browser version? Can you switch to the other ring under the about thing? Whatever?
No.
The dev. Okay.
No. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Server unavailable. Quick, someone tell Microsoft that the DM6PR server in Teams is down.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what they say in 4 days.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
For 4 days, man, you're lucky. 4 weeks, more or less.
Yeah.
And Premier Partner Support has its benefits.
Premier Partner, yeah, perfect. Loving it. Do 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 do. Man, I thought I was going to be safer doing it out of the web browser than the actual Teams client. All right, let me fire up Teams itself. Corey did it this morning and had no problems. What in the world? It's like the most beautiful, perfect, non-issue demo ever. I mean, I did do this like an hour ago, so you would think.
I just tried to hear from here in Ohio, Richard, and it's the same thing. So
Same thing.
Yep.
Yep, I just got the same thing here in Minnesota.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Teams actually recognizes that you're in Amazon's virtual workspace, so it's
right. I know exactly. Yeah, it's what I have available. It's just I wish I could, you know, all right. Well, you know what? I will come back to this. Give it a moment. I promise it'll work. So what I'm going to do is, all right, I'm going to skip the webhook for half a second. Let's talk about Power Automate, and then maybe by the time it comes back, then, you know, whatever happened is way better. Just remember, when you're filling out your surveys, I can't control Microsoft Teams. All right, so let's talk about the other piece. So we'll come back. I know it'll work. I have great faith that it'll come back to us. Then I can loop back around. So there's two ways that you can send messages. You can do it via the webhook, which we'll show. And the other way that you can do now is via Power Automate. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a new blank item from Power Automate. And I'm just going to hit skip because I don't really care about that part. And when I come in here, I'm going to see Microsoft Teams. And I'm going to see all sorts of different triggers. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start with the most simple trigger. I'm going to manually kick the trigger off. So easy peasy. And when I hit new step, I can come to Teams and I can decide down here that I want to post different messages. And again, Corey showed some of this stuff, but just for the sake of seeing it, I could come down here and say, you know what, I really want to be able to post a message as a flow bot to a specific user, right? So I can click on that, and this is gonna, I can then enter in an email address. So I'm gonna use my personal. It's gonna pop up. There we go. Beautiful. And then I can hit save. And as long as the world is not completely against me when I hit this test button. For the record, if this doesn't work, I saw a really kind of cool virtual bar in your background earlier, Tyrion. We're just going to hit the virtual bar if this blows up. Just saying, it might be time.
I've been living at this bar all day, so you got some catching up to do.
Oh, I heard ding, so at least that part worked. Sweet. All right. So where'd you go? Here we go. So here's my Teams client. I have this card, and you can see that, you know, we've now sent in this message from the Flowbot. The great thing about Power Automate is it takes that kind of low code concept and allows you to do all sorts of fun things with it. But for the most part, you're never going to have an app where you're going to manually kick it off. That's complete kind of nonsense. So in the real world, you're going to have something trigger that flow for you. And what I like to use is Microsoft offers a HTTP request flow. Now, first thing to be aware of, this is a premium flow. You have to pay the extra money per month for it. But the flip side to know about the premium flows is you can create it as a service account and have lots of flows beneath that. So you don't have to go have 100 or 200 licenses for it. You can literally do it with one license and build all of your service kind of frameworks underneath that. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my flows here real quick. I'm going to do a new flow from blank. I'm going to hit skip here again, and I'm going to put in HTTP, and I'm going to see HTTP. Well, let me put in a request right here. So when an HTTP request is received, you'll see that it's premium. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And the first thing it's going to ask you for is, how are you going to like send me data, right? So if you think about this, anytime I do anything on the internet, I'm in a browser, I'm going to do some sort of GET request to a website, and I don't have to tell it what I want. I just say, send me whatever you have. I'm just going to get your information. In Flow, I'm going to send a post command, and that post command is most likely going to have a collection of information that I want to send with it. So maybe, for instance, I am working on an application that is some sort of, you know, to-do application. So it's going to send some sort of, you know, announcement or alert that a new pending action has been taken for you. So what I can do is I can click on this, use the sample generate schema, and I put in what what I plan on having. Now, this is in a JSON format, and it's not really hard to understand. It's just a key value pair. So I can see there's an email address and then the value, the subject, the value, the description, the value, right? And it'll come through and it'll allow me to define whatever it is. So, and I could, I could make up whatever I want in this. It does not matter. And this is my fancy field. And what it's going to do is it's going to take this kind of sample approach, what it thinks it should have, and it's going to convert it into a JSON schema. So when I click done, it's going to populate this box, and what you're going to see in the background is it's the same information: email, subject, right, description, priority, but it's going to tell you what the kind of object it's supposed to be. So like the task ID is supposed to be an integer, the fancy field is a string, so on and so forth. So that just sets up the information that we're going to send into our application. So the next thing I want to do is, well, I want to send this as a step. So I can click on next step. And again, I want to post some sort of message. So I could come in here and I could say, you know what, I want to post an adaptive card as a flowbot to a user. So I click on that and it's going to ask, right, who's the recipient of it? Well, the great news is I'm going to be passing in an email address. So that email address could be the recipient. So I can just click on that and that's going to automatically find me the recipient within my organization. As long as the email matches, they're going to get the message. Sweet. And then in the message box, I need to have some sort of message. And I could literally just write subject is, and then click the dynamic content, and it's going to put it in there for me again. And I could just, again, this is just kind of, basic info, and I can hit save. And that becomes then my adaptive card or my message that I'm going to send. Now, whenever you're dealing with HTTP requests, typically the other side wants some sort of response back. So I could come in here and I could say response, and this is just kind of good general good things to do. You should respond back with some sort of code. It's not required by any stretch, but it's just one of those like kind of good housekeeping practices kind of moment. So I could write in my own JSON and just say, success, and then true or something like that. And then I can hit save. And this is going to become my flow that I can then generate, because it's going to give me this unique URL right up here. And I could use this huge long URL in whatever application that I necessarily wanted to, right? So oftentimes we look at and we use a program called Postman to do kind of that sample information. And I have that up right here. And here you can see that same content, right? I have my body, the subject, the description, what the priority is, all that kind of fun stuff. And then I could go ahead and just simply send this off to my end user, right? So I can click send, and it's going to go ahead and fire that off. And it's going to send me my message, and I'll hear my bing in a moment. And here's the new message. It came in right here at 2:48. Now, this is really cool to see it, in Postman, but maybe you might want to see it in an actual real application, right? So I could, as a sample, and now I'm going to go have some real fun, look at a custom application that that's been written for a customer that's using Microsoft Teams, and this is a real world. So they are using an application. They keep track of their own pending actions, their own to-dos, right? And they built it because they needed something for themselves, but they wanted some sort of interaction, some sort of alerting mechanism. So in this case, I can go ahead and click add task. This is a task, sample details, and I'll show you what this looks like in a second. And I'm going to assign this to my fake user here for a moment and give it high priority. And I'm going to go ahead and hit add. And that task was created for my user. If I go back to Teams and I look, I have a new pending action. This is my task, the details, the high, and I even have a link here to go back and click it. So what does that actually look like, right? So I've invoked this, but what really is happening? So if I go and I look at the actual code for this, it's incredibly simple. if you have access to it. And this is a good instance where we're writing a custom application. So I have access to the source code. So they're able to simply interject this one set of code right here. So 175 to 187, and they're able to put in their URL back to Flow, and they can just feed in whatever information they want at this point in time. And they've now taken their third-party application, or their internal built application in this case, and now integrated it directly with Teams. So from an end user perspective, now we've started to connect these two different applications together to kind of give them some, more meat and potatoes to it. So I'm gonna go back to that other screen and see if my connectors work suddenly. I hope they do. Did they fix the DMP whatever server? Oh, you can do it. Like I said at the beginning, this is very possible. This was going to be like, a car driving off a cliff. And
You also wonder if they even know that it's down.
I could take a screenshot and tweet it. Hey, doing a live demo. Could someone please fix this?
Last time you did that, I was up in 5 minutes, right?
I know. Probably not going to happen this time.
No.
Hit refresh again. The worst part was I was gonna I had one created already and I deleted it because I wanted to just show it from the start. Should have just left it. I know I had it there, it would have been perfect. All right, whatever. All right, so I'm gonna show you one other thing. I can't actually send it because I can't get the webhook because, well, the demo gods are against us today. But I can show you what it would have looked like. So the cool thing is you can send, anytime you're sending a webhook into Microsoft, right? That URL for Teams, it's going to look, it's an Office 365 URL, but it's the same kind of concept. So you can use whatever application you want in order to push that information into Teams. And sometimes the most simplistic or easiest way to do it is just via PowerShell, because most of my applications, I have some sort of process, or maybe you're running custom scripts that are running on servers, and at the conclusion of those scripts, you want to send that information into Teams. You can do that really simply just via a PowerShell script. So Microsoft supports two different kind of concept of cards. And if I come back over here real quick, and I'm going to cancel out of this just because, well, it's not going to work anyways, so why bother? What you've seen here these are what are called adaptive cards, but they also have what are called message cards. And message cards are really kind of just the older version of an adaptive card. And the reason why we talk about message cards is because the webhooks as part of Office 365 and Teams, they don't support adaptive cards today. They only support message cards still. So what can I do with that message card? Well, the great thing is I can do a lot of similar actions that I could before. So if I had a webhook URL that I would be able to put in here, I would be able to take this card and I would be able to dump it into my Teams client. And you say, well, I don't know what this looks like, right? It's just a bunch of JSON fun. What you can do is there is a website, and this is in the deck as well, this message card playground. And this allows you to render the old school message cards so you can see what they look like. So this information is right here. I've just dumped it into my message card, and I can then go ahead and see what I would put in there. So, well, it looks like that URL, whatever that was hiding it isn't there. I could change that. I could update this, just say Richard Brynteson, create a new task, assign to no one, and I can do whatever I want, take this information, copy and paste it, and have it execute directly inside of PowerShell. So I don't need to do any really fancy code at this point in time. I can just use PowerShell, which is pretty great. I really do want this thing to work because the second one was important. One more try. This is where you just flip your computer and just move on. All right. So I do have links to both of these. I wish I could have showed you the second one in action, but I can show you the PowerShell for it at least. So here in the PowerShell, this one is a basic card. We're just going to show the very basic information, assigned, due date, status, whatever the case is. But the great thing about message cards is you can take actions inside of a message card. So unlike, adaptive cards, you can do more fancy stuff with it. But even in a message card, even something sent via the web hook, you can still take action on. So in my example here, let me just take copy, paste, and put it back in this one. Here now you can see that my message card is going to have an add a comment and save a due date. So when the card comes into Teams, I'm going to have this kind of functionality. So maybe on the back end, maybe I'm using Salesforce, maybe I'm using, ServiceNow or Freshservice or some other type of ticketing system. I could have the ticket land into my Teams client. I could click add a comment, type in my message. This won't obviously work right now because it's not in Teams. And when I click add comment, whatever is defined right here in the URL action is what's going to happen. So here, there's this action to add a comment, and it's going to send that information, whatever is there, formatted in that format that's defined, and send it to that service. So again, I could have then Freshservice or ServiceNow or Salesforce or whoever, I could enter in their URL here where I could reply to a particular ticket ID, for example, and then I would be able to take actionable change directly from the client via a webhook. So there's a lot of different kind of flexibility you have just at the webhook level. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and hide this because it's not working anyways, and then head back to PowerPoint for a second. Again, if you have questions, please ask. So how it works, good thing I put this in the deck because it doesn't actually work. So normally you'd click create incoming webhook, you'd see this right here. You'd click configure, you'd give it a name, and you're going to get some sort of really long URL. The key thing to know is don't share the URL. Anyone who has the URL can do whatever they want with it at that point in time, and that would be really unfortunate for you. All right, that's the code. Again, I have that all up in GitHub, so the links are right there. So just in case you can't read what was on the screen right there, this is the fancy code. I had to put it in 2-point font to get it to fit. All right, so let's talk about the next piece then. Let's talk about the bot composer and bots. That's the second element of how to integrate your existing apps into Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft released a tool called Bot Composer. It's in preview. They released it a few months ago, and they continue to update this. And the great thing about Bot Composer is it takes all of the tricky parts of writing a bot and just simply makes it a lot easier for you, right? So, and it gives you some really nice templates. So I can come in here and I can hit new, and I can say, you know what, I want to create a new template. I'm going to make it really easy. I just want to have a bot that replies back to me my name. So give it a name. Echo bot 1 sounds great. Hit OK, and it's going to go ahead and build the bot. And up in the top corner, I've got the start bot button, so I can go ahead and click on it. It'll take a moment to build the bot for me. And then I can click test an emulator, and it's going to let me go ahead and test that bot. So welcome, you said Richard, and whatever the case is. So I can kind of drag and drop my bot experience then. So now if you've used something like Power Automate or anything else like that, I can come in and say, all right, cool, I've got this bot. What else can I do? Well, maybe I would want this bot to send an HTTP request, right? Maybe I have this back and forth with a bot where I want to collect information for a trouble ticket. And at the end of that back and forth process, I want to submit that trouble ticket into my favorite CRM product or my help desk product. Well, the great thing is you can use this bot along with your Power Automate that we talked about before and kind of tie the two together. So if you remember correctly, we created back here this flow process to be able to create a ticket. So what if I came in here and said, well, at the end of this back and forth, let me just do an HTTP method and I'm going to send this straight into Power Automate. So let me just grab my post. Here's my URL. And then it's going to ask, what's the body of it? Well, we're just going to put in that same JSON kind of body that we had before. So I'm going to have this post to me. Here's the subject. So let's see. The subject is Microsoft Teams is down. Description. Well, some random server needed for webhooks. And well, it's affecting me right now, so I'm going to say the priority is high. All right, awesome. I do need to send in some headers just because, again, I got to make sure this content knows that it's JSON. There we go. I hit add, but there. Now, in my super simple bot, I'm going to start my bot. It's going to ask a name or ask me to type something. I'm going to type something, and then I'm going to have to say, or as soon as that's done, I'm going to send that off. I'm going to send it to Power Automate and go ahead and render something into Teams. So I'll hit restart bot, hit test again. And it's going to think for a second because now remember, in addition to that echo, it's also going to send off a message. And if I were to go back into Teams now, there's my message right there. MS Teams is down, some random user, high priority. Oh, apparently I said height priority, even better. But this gives you kind of a glimpse of how you could take a simplistic, bot process that you can build with drag and drop, and then go ahead and publish that into Teams. And the great thing about the Bot Framework Composer is they've done all of the hard work for building a bot. So in the old days, you would have, fired up Visual Studio, imported everything, and had all that kind of bot framework fun. All of that has been obfuscated for you, so you can go ahead and have the more power to do this. Now, Microsoft is taking this step further, right? They have the Power Virtual Assistant, the PVA, which does some elements of this, but it doesn't give you as much flexibility as the Framework Composer does. So this allows you to just basically anything you can do within the bot framework, you have that kind of ability then to go ahead and create different things. And you can see that if you look at the different type of templates they have all sorts of fun templates in here, including one of my favorite is just a simple Q&A maker. Right, so maybe I'm an organization and I just want to reduce the number of help desk tickets so that people have to talk to a bot to, take care of some simple problems. And they've automated this entire process too. So I could go ahead and hit next. It's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to just say Q&A 1 is great. Let's see, Nintendo help. Oh, can't have spaces. And then it's going to ask, where is this from? So I was on the internet earlier and I found this nice frequently asked question here from Nintendo. So I can take the URL right from their website and I can just dump it right in here and I can hit create KB. And what it's going to do is it's going to wireframe up everything I need for my bot immediately. And then at the same time, it's going to go parse the Nintendo website and pull back all the information it needs for that knowledge base. So if I click on view KB now, I can see all of these questions that it pulled right off the website. So I could then start my bot and have that back and forth process. Now the Q&A is part, there's an app. Microsoft has this Q&A maker website that you have to go to grab your subscription key. So let me go ahead and throw my subscription key in here real quick. And I'm going to say, okay. So it's going to start this process for me. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Otherwise I already have it published. All right, here we go. All right, so I can click test an emulator. It's going to pop up, I allow it, and maybe I've got a question about a free trial. So I type in free trial, and now it's going to go ahead, it's going to pull that information again that it found originally on that website, and then drop that information for me directly into the bot. So from here, I could easily take my bot, and again, directly from the bot framework composer, I can publish all of this to Azure. So I don't need to know any in-depth processes anymore on all the resources I need to create in Azure or any of that kind of fun stuff. I simply come in and I create my Azure profile and I put in this publish configuration tab. Now, this is probably the trickiest part, is the publish configuration. It is a one-line command prompt that spits out this huge monstrosity of JSON that you literally just take and you copy and then you paste it in as your publish configuration, and it does all that work for you. So it's really interesting. And once I do that, if I hit, go here and I hit save, it would go ahead and submit that up to Azure. Now, a publish process can take 10, 15 minutes. We're not going to sit and watch that just kind of crank away. But the great thing is that once I have my bot in Azure, I'm going to see this. Remember, I figured all of this out in the last hour and a half to do a quick demo, so I misspelled the word Argyle. I'm really hitting 1 for 1 here today. But the one thing I want to do is I need to come in and I need to set my channels. So I need to decide, where is this bot going to interact with? So by default, right, the web chat's going to be turned on. But in addition to that, I can turn on Microsoft Teams, or I could pick a whole host of other services. So if I wanted to make my Nintendo bot available, let's say in Slack as well, then I can just click on Slack and I could just enter in the different IDs. So if I had let's say I've got a client ID here, my client secret, my sign secret, and I don't need a landing page, boom, done. So I'm going to hit save, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to redirect me off into Slack to allow me to do permissions and all that kind of fun stuff. But once that permission process is done, there we go, it's been validated. So now my bot not only is available in Teams, but it's also going to be available in this case in Slack as well. So if I wanted to, I could come back to Microsoft Teams. I could find my bot right here. So I started a conversation earlier with it, and I can just search for it. Family membership, and it's going to go ahead and do that same kind of process. It's going to reach out to the bot, unless it fails again, because now that's down 2 or something. Oh, there we go. Whew, thank goodness. And there, it's going to give me that back and forth process then. But again, I started all of this simply by coming into the bot composer and just picking one of the samples and walking through that sample. So if you've never seen the composer, it's a really easy kind of fun way to make bots, and it just really takes a lot of the stress of making bots out of the process. All right. So any questions on bots or why bots might be useful? Hopefully not everyone's sleeping at this point in time. Again, bot composer framework just gives you that web GUI. It gives you a link. It is available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, so you can use it on all sorts of fun stuff. This is that one single line I mentioned that you need to do to get your URL to do that provisioning. But once you've done that, then you're set and you can go ahead and do everything you want. All right. So let's talk about the next item. Messaging extensions. Messaging extensions are fantastic, especially for legacy applications. So I want to have something where I want to interact with a older app, and that has some sort of API access, but I want to bring that older app directly into Teams and bring it into that messaging experience. And what we're talking about is when you're composing a message, you see these messaging extensions at the bottom of the window. And then when you click on it, it has some sort of action or a search. And those are the two types of messaging extensions that exist. So I want to show you what a search extension would look like and what that process would be like. So let's come over here. That never worked. Oh, good. It's still broken. I'm just going to leave that on the screen so I can take a cool screenshot of it later on. So messaging extensions, you can make them however you want, but the great thing is Microsoft introduced a extension to Visual Studio Code about 5 months, not even that long ago, about 4 months ago, called the Teams Toolkit. And what this allows you to do is create applications directly from Visual Studio Code, and they do all of the scaffolding, all the process for you, and really just give you the all you got to do is add the bare minimum code. So I'm going to create a new Teams app here. It's going to ask me if it lets me log in, so I'll be sure. Go ahead. All right, I'm logged in. All right, and then it's going to ask me what kind of app do I want to create. And we talked about bots, so this is another way you can generate bots is directly through Visual Studio. We'll talk about tabs in a little bit, but I want to talk about messaging extensions first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to hit next, and then it's going to ask for a bot name. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to make this one search-based, and I could create a new bot right from here. So I could just click create bot registration. As long as I've got the Azure permissions to do it, it's going to go ahead and create that for me. Or if I had a bot already, I could enter in the app ID and be able to see that from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to create a new bot registration. And it's going to reach out to Azure, and it's going to build me the things I need. So it's always a good note. Anytime you see anything with a bot ID number or registering a bot, you should always capture that information. And this is all being video recorded too, so we'll make sure to clean up these bots when we're done. There's my password. All right, cool. Then it'll ask me if I want to have a feature called link unfurling. This is a new feature to Teams that came out about 3 months ago, and this is kind of being expanded as we go along. So the idea is when I copy and paste a URL into the messaging tab, I can unfurl that link and be able to show details. So today, if I took a picture or I took a screenshot of something from like Facebook or something like that, and I post it in a message, it's going to show me that preview of that website. Well, link unfurling with a messaging extension can go even further. And what it can do is it can link directly to your application and do that unfurling for you. So I could, as an example, maybe we use a service. So internally, we use a service for ticketing called Fresh Service. So if I were to take the URL for Fresh Service and drop it in as a message, and I had link unfurling working, what it would do is it would go grab the information and build me a card based on the information from that URL for me automatically. For now, I'm going to leave it off, but it is a really cool kind of way to even take it a step further. So I'm going to hit finish. It's going to ask, where do I want to save this? I'll just new folder. That right on the desktop. It's going to go ahead here and think a little bit, and it's going to build me a website for me. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to show me this URL or this README and tells me, what do I need to do to just use this thing right now, right? Like, what can I do right out of the box? So the first thing it tells you as you're looking through this is you do need to have some things like Node installed and ngrok. And if you've never heard of ngrok, ngrok is like maybe one of the neater tools in the world. It allows you to tunnel from the internet to your local workstation. So what I'm telling this thing to do is I'm going to create an HTTP request. So it's going to generate a random URL, and it's going to just magically forward that to port 3978 on my local workstation. So like a really cool way to introduce viruses or something. I don't know. Oh, and then Oh, I know why, because I have it running already. Sorry. Come back here. All right. So if anyone were to visit this URL right here on the internet, it would magically get to my workstation. That's how ngrok works. So the first thing I do is I need to have some sort of way, because we're going to test this in Teams, and Teams has to get to my workstation somehow through magic. So then the last two things is I just need to, build the project. So I'm going to do a new page here. I'm going to just do an npm install, because that's what it tells me to do. It's going to sit here and think for a little bit. We'll do some installs, perfect, and then npm start. And apparently going to blow up all over this place. It's right out of the box. Oh my goodness. Good demo day right now. Well, good news is I have another one already running, sitting there. So let me just exit and go to that one. Same code, same process. There we go. And we'll do an npm start. All right. Okay, cool. So bot service is listening, right? So at the core, a messaging extension is a bot, right? You're not going to interact with it back and forth like a bot, but it's still a bot. So when I look at the code, right, Microsoft's kind of pre-generated all this information for me. And by default, they're going to have in here, so this is their example that they have. And what they do is they're just showing that we could do a search against the entire npm registry and just be able to see, every package that exists for npm. Well, I want to make this kind of more realistic. So I mentioned we use a service called Fresh Service. So I've put in a URL here where I'm going to search against our ticketing system, and I want to be able to look up tickets. So I'm going to hit F5 to debug this, and it's going to pop open Chrome for us. And then it's going to think. It's going to ask me if I want to install it. I'm going to say yes. Perfect. And now this is installed for me. So if I go to Eric, for example, and I come down here, I click on Fresh Service, I'm just going to type test. It's going to go ahead and do a search. That's going to fail miserably, because why not? Because everything else has failed today. Oh, hold on. Stop. Sorry. I actually know what I did wrong this time. I have to update the bot to go to the right place. Let me close this first. Sorry, everyone. This would have worked great before. I have to tell the bot, this is my URL. There we go. Now it's happy. Let me do that again. Okay. F5 key wasn't working now too. Is the bar open yet? I'm just kind of curious. It's like on par for the last one of the day.
I just left you a martini in the chat.
I like it with umbrellas, so I'm just saying.
I think we need more than just a martini there.
In this case, I may not have waited long enough. Yeah. You're just going to be kind of a pain in the butt today, aren't you? Gotta wait a moment. This thing catch up to me again. I am still running it, right? Okay, good. Seriously, how does an F5 key stop working? That's pretty cool.
I've had that happen, and Richard, I think that's the battery of the keyboard.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Just like of all the keys to stop working,
Yes.
that's the one I need. It's the only key I need.
Check the PC load letter.
Perfect. Because life is great today. Nope. All right, hold on. One last try. This was so neat looking before. Nifty. All right. Well, one can try. And they can go only so far until it blows up all over the place. But the general idea again is the Teams Admin Center or the Teams Toolkit gives you a really easy way to generate these different type of apps that you can integrate into your organization. So let's make sure I didn't like copy and paste it wrong. That's it. Yeah, that's fine. I just love that error. Gonna leave that forever. So let's see if this thing fires or not. Or me, I'll just like test code live in front of everyone. What could go wrong?
Isn't that what production's for?
It's for something. It's actually hitting that.
You know it's Eric in the background just screwing with your permissions.
It's just the world is ganged up on me at this point in time. All right.
It's probably
Cool.
affected by the Teams outage as well.
No, it's
Blame it on Corey. It's all his fault for stealing all your content.
oh, I mean, it was a great demo. I'm
Yeah,
just saying. Like, this morning it was so perfect, and I was like, man, no one ever gets that lucky that nothing ever breaks.
I know.
And I think you even said something about how awesome it was that nothing broke. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all downhill from there. So again, the idea behind messaging extension is that I can go ahead and leverage in these external services really easily and be able to pull that through. The other items you can do are personal and channel and team apps. So oftentimes people think that if they've got an internal application, can I just pin it as a website instead, right? So we have, Salesforce. Can I just use the iframe or the website app from Microsoft and just put it as a tab at the top? You certainly could do that, but you should never do that. And there's a few reasons for that. The first is it is just an iframe, which means a lot of things don't load due to iframe restrictions. So you'll have some problems. The biggest two, though, realistically, is that it doesn't support single sign-on because it's just a website tab, and there's no SDK support. So all the cool features like link unfurling and stuff like that, none of that is available. And the last one, and this is probably the biggest, is that the Teams client is going to consume more memory using that website than the native app would. And Teams already runs pretty heavy, so there's no reason why I would suggest, adding extra to that. So anytime there's a native app, you should always try to use the native app as opposed to just using the website link as a general rule. The great thing, though, about it is, again, the Teams Toolkit allows you to build these apps really easily. And this next one's going to work because it's in production. It can't possibly go wrong. So I can't get snake bit again. So I could create a new app. Again, it's going to ask me if I want to log in. I'm going to say yes, that's fine. Cool, thank you. And then it's going to ask me, how do I want to build it? So I'm going to say it's going to be a tab, and I can build my app, and I can choose personal versus group. So this will be my cool app. I hit finish. It's going to ask me where I want to save this. I'm going to put it in this demo folder again. And it's going to do that same process where it's going to scaffold out and build me my tab for me. So if I come in here and I look in the source directory, I can look at components and I would find my tab right here. So this is going to default into React. So again, this is not a low code solution by any stretch. This is definitely where you're going to kind of get your hands a little dirty from building a tab, but it allows you then to easily insert your own code and build out your own tab. So let me show you a real world example of this that I've done that we use in production. So we use GitHub for all of our organizational information. So as a development team, we might have to look across multiple repositories trying to find issues. The problem is the GitHub tool itself provided from GitHub only allows you to monitor a single GitHub repository at a time. But I want to see all of the repositories or a collection of repositories in a single view. That'd be useful for me, but it's mostly important for like my project management people. So I'm looking for an app. Let me launch Teams instead because then it's cooler and I can hold on to my fancy error message screen over there. Oops. So I can click on this tab right here, and what it's going to do is my tab is going to reach out across multiple GitHub repositories, and it's going to pull all that information back to a single location and show me what items are out available that need to be fixed, who it's assigned to, when they were created, and all that kind of fun stuff. So what the code looks like is, you know, it's not complex by any stretch, but again, it's not low code either. So in this case, right at the top, it shows you just the fields we're looking at. So the repository, the subject line, and all that kind of fun stuff. And then down here below, it's going to tell me, you know, where do I need to go to get this? So I'm running off to GitHub to get those issues, and that's going to return back. And there's my array of repos that I want to go against. So the neat thing is that through kind of a low code, or not a low code, but a semi not terrible code, I can go ahead and build that. So this wasn't on the plan to show this, so I don't have this posted in GitHub today, but by the end of the weekend, I'm going to take this project, I'll clean it up to remove any of the, you know, the proprietary special things in it, and I'll post this onto GitHub and put it into the deck as well, just so people can kind of get at it. But again, the idea is if you can build a simple website, right? And again, the toolkit defaults to React. It doesn't have to be React. That's the key thing. It can be anything under the hood. So it can be simple HTML5 and CSS, or if you like PHP, you can use PHP, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as all you're doing is rendering a website under here. And the moment you bring in the website and you have that client-side SDK, then you have access to all of the tool tips and the kind of the fanciness that comes with the SDK. So in this case, right, I'm just pulling in my name, but if you come back and I look at this PowerPoint real quick for a second again, you'll see that there's all sorts of context helpers that you can pull in just simply from someone logging in. So what channel the item is, you know, where the app is installed to, any chat IDs, you know, who's logged in. And this right here is like a really small list of information that you can pull into your tab when you're developing your tab to be able to kind of expand out the format or the information of that tab. All right. So I'm going to take another breath, grab some water, assume every other demo on the planet is broken. Can people build webhooks yet? Just curious. I just want to save that one because, you know, it'd be kind of fun to tweet about, or at least, you know, ask what that terrible server was. Connectors. It's like Friday before Thanksgiving. It's just like Teams is like, I'm out. Peace.
You see, the best part is it's probably going to hit, you know, I'm sorry, on Eastern time, but it's probably going to hit 5:01 and, oh yeah, it started to work.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I would expect nothing less at this point in time.
Yep.
Richard, just make sure you hashtag MN365 admin day when you tweet about that error.
Would I post the picture of it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I will definitely. Not sure that's the kind of excitement you're looking for. I said again, just right off a cliff. All right, so I want to finish here on. So we got really into the weeds in a lot of things. There's a lot of like high code kind of scenarios, but there's also what I call no code, the Teams app templates. And this is really interesting. So these are templates that either Microsoft has made themselves or other open source groups have made, and they've made these available to anyone. And at the beginning when this started, there was 6. And that was pretty much it. And now when you look at the list, there are, I didn't actually count how many, there's probably 25 of them in here. And you can scroll down, and what these are pre-built applications from the ground up that allows you to do whatever you want. And there's some really fun ones in here, right? So if I was an education firm, right, someone has built an entire app around taking attendance for schools, so that you can go ahead and do that. Microsoft posted their book a room one in here, but the two that I think I always like to talk about are, first is the company communicator, and then the second one is this contact group. So I'll start here on this one. I didn't install this one just because I think people may have seen this one before, but the idea behind the company communicator is people have asked for years, I want a way to be able to message every single user in my organization in a single spot from Teams. And Teams doesn't allow you to do that. You could, yes, have like a whole company or an org-wide group, but that org-wide group is limited to 5,000 users. So if you're over that, then you're kind of out of luck. So what the company communicator allows you to do is I can install this application and it will allow me to communicate to everyone in my company. So if I go to GitHub right here, this one was made by the Office team. And it just lets you walk right through how to install it. So here's an example of a screenshot where they're inviting everyone to New Year's Eve. Someone writes this message, and then everyone who has this application installed would then receive this notification on their side. So it's just kind of a fun way to reach out to a lot of people. The other one I do like to show, is this contact group lookup, because this is one of those things that I hear about all the time. I came from Skype for Business, and in Skype for Business, I could add a group and I would see all of my users and inside that group, and I want to be able to chat with them from the group. And that's how I've done my work for years, but that doesn't exist in Teams, and it just doesn't, right? You can't you can't add a distribution list as a contact. So the same kind of concept here, right? Microsoft gives you, and I think this one was made by the Office team as well, gives you the ability to come through, and it just walks you through the steps on how to deploy it. And each one is a little different. Some are more complex. This one is not very complex by any stretch. And if you're following the rule or following the instruction, there's about 15 instructions and you're done. And what it looks like when it's all said and done, and this is what I kind of like. So if I bring my Teams client over here, I can add an app called Contact Group Lookup. And what it allows me to do then is it will let me add contact groups. So this is inside of our production environment. So I'm going to put in T2M all, hit search. All right, there's my T2M all. I'm going to hit add. All right, there's 33 people. And if I click on it, it's then going to go ahead and it's going to pull the availability of every single person, their presence, where they're currently at. So if I wanted to, right, and I could make this so I see everyone at once. If I wanted to start a group message right now between, let's see, where's Eric? He's hiding. No, he's busy. So I could pick Eric. I could pick myself. That'd be kind of a weird message. I'll send it to myself though. Then let's just say Michael, and then I can click Start Chat. And it's going to go ahead and just right from that screen, go ahead and allow me to start that message. So this just gives me another tool to be able to, use existing distribution lists that we have within our organization and be able to get the presence of everyone and kind of see what's happening. And you can do simple things like just start a individual chat message directly from them right from here. And the great thing about this tool is it does, it is recursive down. So this is another group inside of a group. So I could click on that group and it'll show me that group as well. So I can kind of keep digging down on my list of groups and everything works. So I just always like to show this kind of team template as another guide. So let me drop out of here real quick. Last time. Oh, Teams now seems offline. Oh, the messages are getting much cooler. Just saying.
That totally should have been at like a turkey, though.
I mean, I have no words right now for it. It's perfect.
It's better than the old Exchange 2013 frowny face.
Or an upside down ice cream cone.
Just melting all over the place. That's what it should be, like on top of a computer. So I just want to come back to the very beginning where we started this and talk about the different ways that you can interact and build your apps, right? The goal was to kind of give you a taste of the different types of ways that you can interact with applications in your environment. So we talked about tabs, both being personal and team tabs. We talked about connectors. We didn't get to see connectors because Teams is broken right now, but again, watch Corey's 9 a.m. session when that thing's posted. Great demo of connectors. Connectors works great. We talked about adaptive cards and how you could use those within Power Automate and how you could link in other applications. We talked about bots along with the bot composer, how you could interact. And the last one was messaging extensions. So I hope that you found this information useful. I'm only like 5 minutes off of what I expected because, well, I expected another demo in there, but it's not happening today. So questions, where everyone just heard that the fewest number of people were in this session, so they all rushed here because they had the best odds for the gift card, one or the other, something like that.
Richard, I got a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were talking earlier about link unfurling. Does that work on my mobile phone as well?
Link unfurling today doesn't. I mean, you'll get previews on your mobile phone, but it does. The link unfurling of the messaging extension doesn't work on mobile clients today. It's definitely something. I would love to say more. I sat through a great session in Airlift last week about it, and some of the stuff that's got, this is being recorded. I can't say anything, but some of the stuff that's coming.
Hold on, let me stop recording.
Yeah, something around messaging extensions. There are some really cool stuff coming to the app development stuff in the first half of next year. So pay attention in that one.
Well, you'll have to repeat this session in our spring admin day then.
I mean, only if Teams promises to work.
That server might be up by then. I did put in a Microsoft support ticket, so I should hear back next year.
See, it might be back up by then, but it'll go down the same day.
I mean, whatever. But the great thing is, after you've done this enough times, you just kind of you let the crazy of this just kind of roll off and go, it happens. It's the beauty of a live demo.
So Jake Meyer didn't care about the gift card. He just saw that you were the speaker and wanted to come see you.
I mean, okay. Well, sorry, Jake. I probably let you down on this one. I give myself like a 6 out of 5. I mean, a 6 out of 10. Not a 6 out of 5, but the opposite. Wowzers. See, no, I'm just all
6 out of 5.
all disheveled from this. I'm just like, oh my goodness, can't believe it.
Where's that martini?
Yeah, I know. I was looking at the back of the bar. There's so many cool options back there. Just say it.
I have to thank. It was Michelle or Max for this background.
That's perfect. I love it. Any questions at all? Otherwise, I will happily give you back 22 minutes of your day before the next cool thing happens.
I'm scrolling through the chat right now. I haven't seen anything yet.
Thank you, Jake.
Jake only fell asleep twice, so.
That's good. I mean, that's better than normal. Normally it's like 3 or 4 times, so this might have been slightly more engaging, I guess.
Well, Richard, I very much appreciate your time today. It was a great presentation, and as usual, your support, continued support to the user group is very much appreciated. So, thanks again for speaking, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Richard.
Everyone.
So to close this one out, I'm going to just do a couple housekeeping items. The first of which will be drawn for the $25 gift card. Let me pull up my randomizer real quick. So our winner is Microsoft support. Oh wait, no, sorry. 404 Erica.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, there she is. All right. No, the winner is Jeremy Schrader at Imagine IT. So Jeremy, I will use your Imagine IT email to send that gift card unless you prefer a personal email address. Just shoot me a PM and I'll use whatever email you want. Lastly, before we all go, I want to thank you all for joining us for this day. I'm going to share my screen again because you guys haven't seen it 25 times today. You can see it for the 25th. All right, this is the link to the survey and the QR code. So go ahead and fill out this survey, please. We'd very much appreciate your feedback on all the sessions and the speakers that you've watched today. And from this survey completion, we will be drawing a name at random to win this Surface Go 2. Again, made possible by all our sponsors that we've gone through numerous times. But we very much appreciate your feedback on this survey so that we can continue to improve and build on the content that we bring you guys during the admin days and our monthly workshops. So again, take a picture of the QR code or write down this survey and please fill it out. Appreciate all your time today and look forward to seeing you guys all in a future event.
Thanks, everyone.
Richard, thanks again, man.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you, Richard. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Michelle. Of course, my team's just froze up.